Hello everybody, Gisele Grenier here. In this video lesson, I'm going to repurpose this pot. It was a gift from my friend Gayle, and I'm going to repurpose it to a color. I'm not a fan of purple, and I'm going to make it more of a Caribbean feel. It's got some beautiful texture. I'm just going to get rid of these little dots on the bottom. Now, anytime I'm working with a pot that I don't really know what the finish is, first of all, I washed it really well. I'm not going to touch the inside because it's glazed. What I'll do is I'll apply a layer of multi-purpose sealer to the whole piece because, again, I don't know what this was made from. But just from the feel and texture, it's I'm thinking there's enough grit on there and enough tooth to hold the paint. But if you're not sure, then you can always put some sealer on there, and it's just basically just apply a layer and let it dry. But I'm pretty sure that this is going to be fine. So what I'm going to be using is the Decor Designer Finish Kit, and I already did a sample of this and I kind of liked it, and I'm going to this time do it on the pot. So what we do is we're going to start off, and as well, I forgot to tell you, because I got a message, where is it? I got a message from somebody. Oh, let me just reach what they could use. What they could use instead. Let me just bring some, let me just bring some stuff out and stay there. Okay. And then water, right. Okay, so if you already have product and let's say you didn't want to buy this whole set all over again, so the texture sand medium, you can use the Decor Media texture sand paste or the stuff from Traditions. So you don't have to buy the set. You can already use product that you have. And for the paint, so a great way that you can, let me just grab these here. So you can use, I am so unorganized. You can use, so for turquoise and for Bahama blue, because they're already pre-mixed and the color index numbers aren't on the bottles, I'm looking at this, and this can easily be made with either cerulean blue, cobalt turquoise hue, or cobalt teal hue with white to knock it down, and then you can even add a little bit more phthalo blue if you want a higher contrast. So basically what it is a light blue green and a medium blue green, but you can easily make that yourself with any of these colors or with the Traditions. So you can experiment with that. Okay, that's, I'm gonna have to fix where that goes because that's all out of order now. And for then the white, you can use the Decor Media Fluid Acrylics Titanium White because that's already fluid. All right, for this purpose, oh yeah, and then the pot, if you have just something flat, use modeling paste to stencil something for some texture to replicate that. Okay. So I'm going to first base coat the pot with Vintage Effect White. And this is going to take, oh, reach over. This is going to take a bit to do. And I'm just going to cover that. Now you can, if the pot was a color that was really off, then what to do is paint it with an opaque white, like a gesso or a primer. That way you're going to kill all that color coming through. I'm not going to worry too much about it because I want to tie a little bit of that purple in because you'll be able to see some of this inside here. And then when I'm done, Joe's going to drill a hole for drainage. So I'm just going to base coat that. Make sure that I don't fill in the holes. A bristle brush will probably be better with this. I gotta pick up some actual large bristle brushes. The soft grip ones I have just aren't big enough. Because with the bristle brush, you can get right into the nooks and crannies without adding too much physical paint. So I'm not going for a complete opaque finish on this. And I'm thinking this is going to take probably about, 3 layers just to knock it back enough that just a little bit of purple shows through. So then I'll do the bottom as well, and I'll do this top lip here. But I'm not going to do the inside because that is glazed. All right, so not to waste your time, I'm going to off camera go ahead and apply a few more layers of paint with this, and then when we come back, it'll be ready for the next step. All right, so that just took an extra coat, and I changed it to a bristle brush, and I just kind of pounced heavy into that. And I'm thinking the flower arrangement that Gayle gave me, that this was in here, I remember the flowers were a little bit purple too, so that's why it worked well with the pot. So if this goes into a blue, then I've got this orchid that when Joe bought it for me for our anniversary, the petals were actually dyed blue. That would work really well in this. So I'm not quite sure how well this is going to turn with the blue, because there is a bit of purple showing through, because I want to tie it into this, but we'll have to see. So now the next step is to take Bahama Blue, and I'm going to put roughly about a looney's worth. If you're Canadian, you know what that means. And then the texture sand medium. So roughly equal amounts. Oh my goodness. Look about right? I don't know. And I'm going to randomly apply this to the pot. I'm not quite sure how it's going to look, but we'll have to see. Now, the thing is that the texture sand base will get into the flower parts. So I'm going to focus more on the flat parts and just maybe some parts here. And I'm not going to cover everything. I'll just use this brush here. Okay, so that actually doesn't turn out too bad. So I probably could go over the flowers just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. So you want to leave some of the base coat showing, and I want to make sure I don't get into too much of a pattern. It's more of a random thing. Now I will have to varnish this at the end. I'm going to use the Duraclear varnish because that will protect it. I can actually use this pot outdoors. That's my favorite varnish. And you know what I just realized I forgot to do? I forgot to tell you what the colors were, what we're going to be using. Okay, so we've got the Vintage Effect wash, the white, and then where are we? And then we've got the Decor Americana Bahama Blue, Vintage Effect Turquoise, and then the Texture Sand Medium. But then I already showed you what you could use if you didn't have these specific colors. Because I'm trying these kits out, and because I already have the sand and I already have a whole bunch of the fluid acrylics and that, I would personally myself, I would prefer using those because of the color index numbers. I know that I can color mix to an exact specification. Using pre-mixed colors like this, it's a little bit more difficult. All right, so let's see. I'm going to put a little bit more on here. Got quite a bit there to use up. I love the cracks in this pot. I missed all this here. I'm going to make sure I get all the bottom. Make sure I get all of that just to see what it looks like. I think it was off camera there. Oops, sorry. So in the next step, we apply the turquoise. The Vintage Effect turquoise is translucent, so some of the blue is going to show through, but it's a darker color, and you can think of, you know, overlaying some of that color on top of what's already here. So I'm going to go back in now, and I'm going to put some of the sand mixture around the trim parts. Make sure I have the flower, making sure I don't get inside the petals because I want that contrast. I love the cracks in here, love that. But you can really do it any way you want. I don't think when you're doing this technique there is a wrong way of doing it. Now the other thing you can think of, if you think about it, you could fill in the whole thing with this. Then when you come in with the turquoise, it'll just hit the top edges. So that could be another idea as well. All right. So with the texture sand based, what you run the risk of filling in all the nooks and crannies. So you just have to be careful with that. Add slowly because you can always add more, but it's harder to take away. All right, so got a lot left there. I'm gonna try to see if I can put this into another little container, and so I don't waste it. And oopsie, you know what I forgot to do? The top. The top, I'm gonna do that solid. So now we have to let this dry, and when we come back, we'll take the turquoise and we'll skim the raised edges on the pot. And from my experiment, from what I did before, I found that the Vintage Effect Wash turquoise wasn't a strong enough contrast. So I'm going to cheat, and I'm actually going to darken this. I want the contrast to be much, much stronger. There we go. Oh, and let me just do this, the ridge inside, because the dirt goes up to there. All right, so I'm just going to finish this up, and then when we come back, we'll move on to the next step. So now the next step is to randomly apply this to the pot. Now, this is a Vintage Effect Wash turquoise. I want to deepen that contrast, so I'm going to add the Decor Media Fluid Acrylics Cobalt Turquoise Hue. And it's a mix of PG36, PG7, PBK7, and PW6. So PB36, what is that? That is, I have no idea, but it looks like it's just a little bit of a shift off of cerulean blue, and then phthalo green, black, and then some white. So I'm just going to that on the side. Yeah, see? That looks really nice. I want the contrast to be much, much stronger. And because the fluid acrylics are already fluid, it's not going to make the wash any more opaque. Because the actual finish on this is semi-transparent. Let me make sure that's mixed well. All right. And let's see, I'm going to use another bristle brush. Again, with this, there is no wrong way of doing it. Ooh, I like that. Like that. And what it's doing, the sand is actually really grabbing the paint. But you're wanting to make this look like it's a worn out piece. Like the salt from the ocean air is just breaking it down. So it's not going to be perfectly covered everywhere. It's going to be random. So I'm not covering everything. Yeah, this this is nice. Love that look. The pot was perfect. I want to thank Gayle as well for that beautiful arrangement she gave me. But the pot is it's just so rustic. Now the other finish that would have been nice is farmhouse. Okay, I can never get these names right. Salt wash farmhouse, which is the same as this, but it uses more of the grays. So that would be a nice one as well. And I'm going to put some paint, just dry brush over, not going for an opaque, solid finish. You want to make sure you can let some of that base show through. So at this point now what I do is just let it dry, and then if I want to come back and add another layer, I can. I'm not going to worry too much about the bottom. This is for my own use, but if you were selling this or giving it as a gift, finish the bottom. All right, take another peek. Yeah, oh boy, I like that. So I'm just finding some areas that are really raised that I can hit it with a pop, more of a pop of turquoise. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry now. Now when we come back, we turn around and we take the white and we repeat this process again, just skimming. But this time I'm going to focus more on the inside parts to really boost that contrast. So I'm going to come in where I see a little bit too much purple. I'm going to put in a little bit of the white in there. And then I'll take a clean bristle brush and I'll do this exact same step, but just with white to really age it. All right, so that's the white. And I'm going to load it, brush really well. And I'm just going to grab it from the side. Now I'm going to look here where I put a little bit too much paint. Again, random. Random. And you're just, because it's going to let some of that color show through. Oops, now. Okay, so when you're doing this, don't do it this way on the table rolling because it's going to get wet. So lift it up. Oh my goodness. But random areas. And oh, I gotta get a small brush. Oh my goodness, small. Where there's just a little bit too much purple. Because this paint is translucent, it's not gonna look out of place. You're still gonna be able to see a little bit of the base coat through. But it's not going to look so far out of place. I hear there's a big glob of paint here. I'm going to tweak that. So this type of style is very forgiving when you have people like me who are very impatient. It's funny, I was teaching a class on for my creative students who are building a website, and one of the things is we had to come up with branding, and we were talking about what people think of. Basically, branding is what people say when you're out of the room. That's what your brand is. It's how you're remembered. And we did an assessment, and one of the things that I had to, tell people, okay, what do you think how people think about you? And one of the things people said about me is that I'm a very patient person. I went, oh my God, one of the least patient people in the world. But yeah, so it's Like even now, my paint application is getting a little heavy because I'm impatient. But the beauty with this is that if you've done too much product, like here, is you come back with the turquoise and do another layer. That's why this is so forgiving. This project is very, very forgiving. Dry that out a little bit more. Yeah, that went right inside. Now what's interesting is that the sand isn't really grabbing it on the bottom, so I think it went right into the texture of the bottom of the pot. I'm going to put this outside for photography, and Joe's going to go, "What did you buy now?" Okay, tilt, tilt, tilt. Make sure I've got random, random, random. Okay, so you just randomize it. I'm going to soften up the bottom. That's just more, I don't want any harsh edges because it's going to be touching a table. I don't want the paint to chip. But mind you, are going to be varnishing, so it'll be fine. And then at the top. Again, make sure you don't cover everything. You want some of that base color to show through. Alright, so I'm going to let that dry. Then I'm going to come back with the turquoise again. And I'm just going to... Oh, hang on a second. I may not have to. Hold on. Nope. Doesn't look like I'll have to. I'm just going to wipe some of it out with paper towel. There we go. See, I didn't know I could do this. Oh, I like this effect. That looks really cool. Oh, okay, not the wet part. It's got to be dry. Oh, that's neat. It's almost like I'm sanding it. Okay, that turned out better than I expected. Sandpaper would have taken too much off, but the paper towel just seems to be taking off just enough. There we go. That's a really rough looking pot. And what if I took the paper towel with some paint? Oh, the paper towel works better than the brush. Yeah. The paper towel works better. Look at that. Isn't that something? If you did that with color, then you can use the paper towel as a, as collage material in another project. There we go. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that dry, and then when we come back, we'll see what it looks like, and then I'm going to varnish it with some Duraclear varnish. Okay, so I'm going to be using the Americana Duraclear Ultra Matte finish. It's polyurethane, so it's good for outdoors. And think about it, why I didn't use gloss. If this is a salt wash finish, which is going to be worn down and old, a gloss finish wouldn't make any sense. I'm using my special varnishing brush and just going to apply a layer of varnish. Always follow the directions on your product for use and curing time. And other than being protective, this will pretty well be slightly more matte than this actual finish. There's just a glimmer of a, no, it's not quite a full on matte. It's just a little bit. So this won't change the finish much. What you have to make sure, and I'm going to probably put about 5 layers of this to make sure you get right inside all the nooks and crannies, but you don't want to put so much paint that it just globs. So thin, even layers of paint. Now you could, just something to say, well, use a bristle brush to get right inside. Problem with the bristle brush is that leaves texture, and I use this brush exclusively for varnishing. You do it the way you want, of course. It's your project. Just be aware that a bristle brush for varnishing will, well, I'm not saying it will likely leave brush strokes. And when varnishing for a finished piece like this, I will never ever use a heat gun or a hair dryer to dry it. I will put it into an area that I have set aside in my little studio for drying, which is a box with shelves, and it's dust free. So that's it. So I'm just going to continue on with that. So what are some other things? So think of, if you like this technique, and they've got other finishes as well, like the farmhouse and oxidized tin and rusted metal. They've got a whole bunch of other finishes. But for this specific one here, think of what you can do. You go to, whether it's, wherever you are in the world, depending what the state of the pandemic. Think of, like, we've got, what's it called? Thrift stores like Value Village and Talese. You go there and you can buy decor pieces like this, and you upcycle them, make them look sort of nice and modern or old, and then sell them. So you buy the thing. Like, I know that at Value Village I can buy little pots similar to this for 50 cents. And then you spend about 2 hours of work on it, and you sell it for 20, or whatever your pricing model is. And then if you're not doing craft shows or whatever, you sell it online. Whether you do it through something like Etsy or Shopify or your own website, which is something I always recommend. You have your own website. That way you're in control of 100% in control of everything. You're not relying on a third party for everything. And just sell your stuff that way. You really, all you need to do then is just to ship it. I'm hoping next year, the craft shows will be back in force, but you know what? Better be safe than sorry, because I don't think I can go another year with this crap that we've just been through. There you go. So now I'm just basically picking out where the varnish went inside the holes, just kind of tidying it up a little bit, and then I'll let this dry, and I'll repeat this step a few more times to make sure that it is fully covered in varnish. Now, you want to cheat, you encase it in resin, but in encasing it in resin, the problem with that is that resin, like I'm talking the whether it's art resin or whatever, you can't really leave that outside. Especially in the heat that we've been having, it would melt. It's plastic. But this stuff here, you never go wrong. Never, never, never go wrong. Absolutely love it. Alright, so that takes care of that. Now I'm just going to finish the bottom. And that's it, you guys. So I'll show a picture at the end of it finished. And I would love to hear, that's how to dry it. You put it right on top of the bottle. I would love to hear your thoughts for some ideas for creating your own upcycled pieces. So think of, think of your skill set, what you're good at. And the products themselves, the kit. Okay, so this, where did it go? Okay, I'll just pull the other one that I have. So this one here is rusted metal. this kit isn't what matters. It's the actual products which you can get individually. So think of what you have in-house, and you know, do you like painting pots or painting plates? I've got an old rusted charger plate I'm going to work on. I've got, what else I'm looking here? I've got an old rusted planter box I'm going to convert into something to hold candles. So painting home decor pieces is not my strong suit, but I'm thinking I want to try something different. And by doing that, you know, it keeps me challenged. I don't get bored. So think of what you're good at in technique, and think of how you can apply that to making stuff that can bring you a little bit of extra money. And I would love to hear your ideas of what you can come up with in the comments below. And whoa! And when I come back, I'll have this puppy all finished. There we go. It's all finished. And it got... the matte finish didn't really change much as I thought, but there you go. So I hope that you enjoyed this project, and it's given you some ideas of what you can do with flea market finds, ways to upcycle them, you know, make some money out of something you're already doing and you love to do. And so again, I'm looking forward to some of your ideas in the comments below. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask away. And yeah, so this turned out really, really well. I have an idea now for another rusted container. I have to figure out how to get rid of the rust, but I've got a rusted container that I'm going to basically use a oxidized tin set on that, but I think I'm going to change up the colors. That's the beauty of this thing, is that you can change up the colors, get the same effect, but just change up the acrylics to whatever you want. Alrighty, so hope you enjoyed it. Give me a thumbs up if this project gave you some ideas, and until I see you in the next lesson, stay inspired.